Thank you very much, comrades. Today, we're gonna be looking at African personality. My name is Sbusiso Xaba. I'm the national chairperson of the PAC. And in this forum, we are hosted by the NNLC Youth League, the Revolutionary Movement, and the Pan Africanist Movement, Eswatini. President, may you welcome us.
Greetings, leadership. Sibonge mholi. Sibonge lesikhathi ukuthi sikhona sibone amacabane letako. Comrade leadership, I won't say much. I will request the Secretary General of SNAT, Comrade Sigelela, to open, and he will also make a last submission for us. Over to you, Comrade, Comrade Sigelela.
Yeah, thanks, Comrade Chairperson, and thanks to everyone who has set aside the time to join and be part and parcel of this engagement. Thanks, National Chairperson of the PAC, for investing, because we regard this as an investment. You know, building capacity of natural persons such as ourselves. It is an investment that you are making to us. It's a contribution that is significant. It cannot be taken lightly, because we understand that you are always busy that side with your staff and organizational work, but setting aside some time to actually be with us and to trigger our minds into engaging deeply on the contemporary issues. Giving a brief highlight on what is happening in global politics, and the debates are very, very interesting, and we can talk about these issues until cows come home, because these things, we need to be open-minded when we engage on these issues, because in as much as it is true that the things are occurring far afield as Russia and Ukraine, but it is also true that today the world has grown smaller. That is why it is now referred to as a global village. And in this era of globalization and internationalism, as revolutionaries, we should know that what happens anywhere in the world must be taken as if it is happening just by next door, because the world has grown smaller. So global politics have a bearing on our national politics, and even in our organizational politics. So I'm just making those brief remarks to show appreciation of what is being done, and we want to appreciate everyone who has taken piece of their time to be part and parcel of this engagement. We wish everyone of us full engagement, leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Lamini. Looking at our topic of today, it becomes very difficult, very important that we continue from our discussion of moving from mobilizing to organizing. We have spent sufficient time looking at what does it mean to mobilize people, although we use the word campaigning, where we analyze what the campaign looks like. We then went further to analyze what tools that are available for an organization to analyze itself, its friends, its rivals. Now we then started looking at the program of how do you organize. We talked about organizing within a campaign, And we highlighted that there is organizing of an organization, and highlighted that ultimately we want to be leaders in organizing the state. However, through the revolution, the most important part of the revolution is it's a work that a revolutionary does on himself. Secondly, it's a work that a revolutionary does to fellow revolutionaries. And the work that were able to fully transform individual members of the society. In culture and in the change process, you hardly change a mob. You change a person one by one. And you transform that person completely. And most of the work, that person must do themselves. Hence today's topic of looking a little bit deeper on the issues of African personality. To say that as we recruit people, bring them to our Pan Africanist organization, then what kind of a person do we want to mold? What is this Pan Africanist looking like? What kind of a personality is he? What kind of an African when we became a dominant idea in society? What kind of a person that is living there? This is the major question that Che Guevara raised in Cuba to talk about the question of a new man. As Pan-Africanists, we don't want to resurrect as beautiful as the African of 1,000 years ago, of 2,000 years ago, as glorious as he might have been. But we don't want to resurrect that African. We want to build a new African. And that African that we are building must be known to us as Pan-Africanists. Any personality that does not protect the interest of the owner is dangerous and should be removed by the owner. Angas Noma, that is clear. I hope that comes out very clear. That whoever owns whoever owns a personality that is not in their interest will not be successful. So that is what is called in psychology self-sabotage. So you have a personality that fights against your interest. So when we say that we want to build the African interest, we must be clear that we want to build a kind of a behavioral traits, the kind of instincts, the kind of intuition that protects African interest. That's a duty of an African personality. You will appreciate that in various studies, including legal, there is a difference between a person and a personality. A person has to do with biology and those kind of things. And but when you get to the area of then a personality, you are basically talking about performance. You are talking about performance. How does this thing perform for me? That is African personality. So as a political party, we must decide as the NNLC, as the PAC, as any Pan-Africanist organization, we must decide what kind of a personality are we building. We normally talk to the issue of change of culture. Culture is for us all, but culture changes with individuals. So what kind of a personality do we build? Over to you, comrade. Your hand is up.
Comrade akuselonganani kukhona abacela ukujoyina ngicela bemukele chief.
I keep on accepting them. I can see they're hanging. However, they are accepted from my side. I think it's just the network that is slow on that side. Thank you, but I will watch out as we go through. So that's a question of personality that we're contesting. What kind of personality is the NNLC building? Has that discussion happened within the party? Do we know? Can we see a member of the NNLC just by walking through and say, this one is one of us, because of the way that it behaves? As the PAC, we put up in 1959 a document which was called the Disciplinary Code. It basically defined for us what is the personal habits that a member should have, how is the member conducting himself in the meeting, how is the member conducting himself when it deals with other political parties or with other stakeholders of society. The question becomes that, has that been defined? Of course, in our case, we got a challenge where it's on paper, but it's not in some of our comrades' lives. So you can see that this behavior does not reinforce what we envision as the African personality that we want to create and protect. That is a challenge from a policy perspective. And that cannot come from wishful thinking. It should come from a proper analysis of our interest, and it should come from a proper analysis of how do we design the personality. Revolution and socialism in particular is data-driven decision-making. It's clear in its value and protection of the African interest. I decided to use just one example of how do we then get to the element of analyzing personal traits. I think this is one, normally it's called the Big Five, a question of asking what kind of a person do you want to build? When you look at African personality throughout centuries, our desire has been to avoid extremism and keep into harmony. When you look at arenas like the 42 laws of matter and others, like I said, made an example, the one of the PAC, you will find that we seek balance, we seek harmony. Because when you become extreme, except extreme in protecting your interest, if you become just an extremist, you see someone bombing people, you suddenly support that person because they're revolutionary. Or you see someone hating America, or you see someone hating the regime in the country, suddenly you associate with them because it's without understanding the totality of their interest becomes problematic. Out of these 5 elements of trait, you want to define the element of extraversion or extraversion. What is extraversion? Extraversion basically talks to how energetic are you? How extrovert are you? How outgoing are you? How easy to interact with other people? Remember, every time we deal with these issues, being an extrovert or introvert is not good or bad. The question, does it serve your interest or not? So one of the elements become extroversion. The other element is how agreeable are you? Are you someone that when you meet someone, suddenly you just agree with everything that they have? This normally goes with emptiness. If you stand for nothing, then you agree to everything. On the other extreme, if you are so rigid that you cannot be persuaded by anyone, then that personality is not a stable personality as well. I'm sure you've seen people like that, who their first instinct is just disagree. Even if you say there's actually nothing to disagree here. So that spectrum of how is your agreeableness becomes important in analyzing a personality. Then how conscientiousness are you? How aware are you with your environment? Or you just move with whatever, you are not, your consciousness is very low. I think as we are saying these things, you can see some health, what can I call them? Some health sicknesses that you can identify with some people who are unstable in these areas. Either a person who's an extreme introvert who does not associate with any other person except themselves, or a person who's so agreeable with everyone that you actually don't know what they stand for, or someone who's practically empty from where they start and where they are engaged. Or someone who's too thoughtfulness, who overthink everything, who is information flooded in their heads. So that's a conscientiousness. Then there are people who go throughout their life being sad and overly sad, permanently sad, or permanently moody, change 5 times his moods, mood unstable. That's neuroticism. Are you able to manage your emotion as a revolutionary? Are you, some will even push it towards what is called emotional intelligence. Are you moved by emotions to the extreme? The 5th one becomes the openness. How open are you to new experiences? Do you want to stick to what you do every day? You wake up, you're a routine person on one side. On the other hand, Are you a person who goes with every new experiences? When it's new, it's you first. So in analyzing the personality, you have to go through this. Any imbalance in one of these five is possibly has a name in in health unwellness. So how does this become political? Once you have a lot of people who are outside the design of the organization, what it wants as a personality, the range which it puts any of these elements, then you find that you have a lot of conflicts in the organization. If you recruit, you'll prefer to recruit people who are already aligned to the design that you wanted. To be extreme in any of this, or to be in the same line, how much in the scale is the best people that you want to recruit to the organization? And how much of these people can you promote to be your leaders? How is the conditions dictating what is needed out of this character? Out of these 5 traits that measure personality. You see, just to make an example before I come almost closer to my presentation and look for questions and engagement, let's take what is normally embraced quite a lot, which white people in particularly, or Europeans, or those people who drive white domination, they are very quick to tell us as Africans that our African personality should be Ubuntu. Have you heard that? Ubuntu. Is that good for us or not? Let me put a proposition as you are thinking about it. If Ubuntu was so good for us, Europeans who are taking our land will not be reminding us that our trait is Ubuntu. But you can see Ubuntu is a good thing. It's a philosophy that makes you giving, that makes you accommodate other people. It's such an ideal, but does it serve us? If that was really our ideal historically, it means that we welcome foreigners who ended up taking our land and oppressing us. Is that a good thing? It means that that personality did not represent our interest. And the question becomes that, does it serve our interest now? Like I say that when you read it, some German even painted it as his own, copyright Ubuntu as his own. Why would our natural enemies love it so much? But as I said, if you read it, you would like to have someone who has Ubuntu on paper. But would you like to have a leader that is so accommodative, that is so perfect? So that's why right and wrong is not a primary need. What is important is to say, does it serve our interest? What affects personality? I would have loved the comment before I move from this one. I'm sure that we all know the philosophy of Ubuntu that is shoved down our throat in every engagement that we are in. and if it serves us or not. With that quietness, let me move. Personality does not come from the air. It comes from the material conditions which we are subjected in. Come in, comrade, your hand is up.
Thank you, Chief. I don't know whether I'm loud, Chief.
You are loud and clear.
Yeah, maybe from your first submission, I can say that on the perspective of the African personality, then regarding the part of Ubuntu, it have made us to reason amongst ourselves, to reason amongst ourselves. Ngakubekisana ukuthi ithambisana ne-respect like lokuhloniphana nekubonisana sima-Africans. But where une-writer leyake yabhala one day sengikhohliwe ukuthi ngubani le-writer yathi if Africans can accommodate ukuthi bantu abamhlophe basifundise ukuthi bona they are violent, but nasingake nathi si-understand ukuthi how strong we are in that part of being violent, then we can accept that. Bekachaza lokho ukuthi ku-respecta umuntu ngilokuba nalobuntu akusho ukuthi you must allow anything to happen nje ngendlela lesinoma kanjani. I think kule perspective yobuntu ngingabeka on that submission, because silence or respect does not mean ukuthi you must accept everything ukuthi iqhubeke ngendlela lengasiyo.
Thank you. I think it aligns our discussion that possibly among ourselves, Ubuntu is a good trait. You would like people to be like that. But when we deal with others, we must look after ourselves. So I'm not saying let's throw out Ubuntu, but I'm just challenging that everything that we look at, we must look at with the eyes if it serves our interest, or this good thing has become a weapon against us. So when you look at personality, how does it get formed? A personality is formed by conditioning. You get conditioned to be a particular personality. You get conditioned even genetically. Let me say generations before, because DNA can be conditioned. And as it goes down through generation, already go down conditioned to create a particular personality that from a colonizer point of view that is manageable, or from a colonized point of view, conditions so that you are able to rebel out of being colonized. That does not only happen in your presence, like I say, it can happen multi-generational. That's why as Pan-Africanists, it's very important that our struggle with designing the way that it crosses multi-generations. Chinese, normally they say that when they plan for 500 years. They already have a picture of what would China look like and feel like. How would the Chinese feel like in 500 years time? They start implementation for 100 years. They monitor their implementation in 5 years pieces. That's why they always have 5-year plans. But those 5-year plans are linked to a 500-year ambition. I hope that as Africans and as Pan-Africanist parties, we will not plan to the next election. whenever the elections are being 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, or within our party on the plan for our party within the 2 years or 3 year cycle that we go to Congress. Because we have to design personalities that serve interests that we can see clearly for centuries and in the implementation for decades. Let me make an example with the South African experience. I think it will be the same as Eswatini or Swaziland. You will find that Africans are put in areas where they are put in areas where there's a lot of air pollution. They get put in places which are crowded a lot. And they'll be put in places where there is a lot of danger. And Verwoerd, particularly Hendrik Verwoerd, which was basically a founder president of apartheid, he made sure that he introduced a lot of alcohol, freely available alcohol in townships. The combination of pressing, the combination of unstable mind that is polluted by substance like alcohol, it starts creating social conditions that mold a particular personality. Remember, Verwoerd was a sociologist. So he understood exactly what he was doing when he designed a typical township. He did not want many Africans to be in rural. He wanted them to be compressed and create an urban African who's of weaker mind, weaker gene, because of the social conditions that he has put in. So you see that's an intangible part of how you condition. The same way you condition an elephant to be held by a chair. When the elephant is so big, but it gets held by a chair. It's the same techniques that the colonizer will use, or oppressor, or the regime currently that is in charge will use to socialize people. It's not by mistake that all the NGOs are run by Abantwana Benkosi, because you must get used to have a handout. The whole society must use to get a handout from a particular person that represents the reality, so that the reality is seen in a particular eye that keeps the personality serving that kind of interest. So there is direct social conditioning that is applied to create a particular personality, or to move one of these 5 scales in one arena or another. Then there's a physical. That one was intangible. Now, when you get to the tangible, it becomes the same. Once they put you in a polluted environment, they put you in land that is unarable, they put you in a way that will affect your health. What you eat becomes a political instrument. Hence, you see those who want to control the world make a GMO food, because inside the food, they can create physical elements, they can create hormones, they can move hormones biologically. That changes the personality towards the personality that will serve their interest. So when we go to cultural rituals that we do that we have touched when we touch culture. We must know that we are adjusting a personality in a social engineering manner, because that is driven by ritual, is driven by socialization. It's an intangible conditioning. Then you have a physical conditioning, which is physical environment that is created to produce an outcome of a particular personality. So as revolutionaries, as we do our policies, our public policies, as we campaign, it becomes important that we do those things. So campaign for wellness is not a soft campaign, that people must eat correctly, people must go to the gym, those kind of things that some of us wish we do, but we don't. It's not just a fuzzy thing, but it's making sure that personalities that we want in our organization are so such that they follow the design that we've created. Without going any further, I think that I should consider stopping here, hear your views, your comments from this point onwards. On what we have touched so far. We said we need to design, we need to know what kind of personality we design that will serve the African and protect the African interest. We said we know that our enemies will be interested in our personality to shift it one way or another. We said that we got a responsibility to build our personality so that it's the same as the design that we've chosen. We said that lastly, we must understand that there are spiritual or intangible conditioning and their material or physical conditioning. Both of those we must look after. That includes what we read, what we watch on TV. Everything is designed to shape a particular personality. And as revolutionaries, we must always be fighting to ensure that everything, radio or TV or music, serve to reinforce the personality that we want. Comrade, your hand is up. Over to you.
Yes, thanks, Chairperson. It's just a comment, excuse me, on what you have just said with regards to molding or shaping one's personality in terms of what we need to do. I think you were clear, and as far as that is concerned. But what is also important, in my view, is to also know that we need to emphasize on people unlearning things that they have been taught in order for them to create a space for the new innovations, the new stuff that they are to learn as well, molding particular personalities. You see, when you were talking about the Ubuntu concept, it's a concept that is in existence, it is widely used, but it is indeed a tool of oppression of ensuring submission. I will say that, because the people who normally talk more about that, if you study them very well, you will see that they are raising that Ubuntu card because they want to exploit you in one way or the other. In actual fact, as Africans, it's not something that has always been there. Because had it been there, Ngabe, we are not talking about the fact that during the slave trade, the people who were major agents during the slave trade, those were Africans. You remember that they were actually responsible for getting hold of the slaves, chaining them, and submitting them to the whites. And the Ubuntu concept was not in existence during that time. It is only used when a particular person wants to exploit you in one way or the other, wants to make you feel I'm an important person, and therefore you relegate certain aspects of your lives into the background. So the discussion is actually an eye opener to us into saying, if you look at a person's conduct or a person's life, you must look at it holistically, starting or even taking cognizance of the historical conditions that might have led to the person behaving in a particular way. I think it is going to then help us to be able to know what particular direction are we to influence that particular person in the character that we want to achieve out of that particular person. Thank you very much, comrade.
Thank you very much. I think you have summarized the whole point of what we're trying to get to today. That the personality is molded, and as we recruit, we need to recruit people who are biased, who are already leaning to the personality that we desire. But more importantly, once they are inside, let's mold them, and also let's mold the rest of society for us to be in the right space. Is there any comment? I will really be happy to hear one or two comments, then we close. With that quietness, I can see that we go on, Africa. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Chair, maybe to start in the part ntoke wayithinza. There come a time lapho wake wathi kunesikhathi lapho umuntu uyakhona kum-identifya as a Pan Africanist from a group of people labahambako, like you can imagine. I think that's the part lezama ukuzivula leti ngqondo kokuthi how can you identify ourselves ubone ukuthi um-Afrika lo. But I think the greatest part le ngiyibukile kulama traits lowafakile is the consciousness part. Yes, the consciousness part ngiyo lengicela nje ukuthi ngikhulume ngayo. Uthinze indlela yokuthi how the environment irrelevant to the comrade by the time, because I think lokunye lengingakusho ukuthi yes, the environment contribute to who we are. Nekokuthi kule environment lesikiyo lwati lesiliphethe lingakanani, it also contribute kakhulu kokuthi how are we going to behave. Nguleyo mina submission lengaba nayo comrade, part of consciousness njengoba njalo nje sifunda sigeta lwati nekuthi how to conduct ourselves, because environment is key lapho sikhona khona. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much. I think that was the last hand. May we then request Comrade Lamini, if you can just close for us for today. Thank you. As directed by the President earlier.
Yes, no, thanks, Comrade Chair, and thanks to everyone who was able to make time and to participate. It's just that probably today, I do not know how we may override that next week or in the future. The issue of the network. At times, these things are beyond our control, but today, I think it was taking its toll on us because so many comrades couldn't join because of poor network or other technicalities. But otherwise, the mere fact that the engagement is being recorded, I think it is going to assist if it then gets shared because comrades are now going to be then able to get that which was being discussed. And we shall be reflecting on the concepts so discussed today. And we are really learning because even the aspect and the approach to the ideas so raised and the issues, it leads to the full development of the individual. And as a revolutionary and a Pan-Africanist, it makes you to be able to understand clearly and in detail the idea of Pan-Africanism and why is it still relevant today, because it just tells you that the study of the of human beings and the human spirit, it never ends. We need to mold it time and again. Thank you very much. I think we did benefit quite a lot from today's discussion. Chair, good night to everyone. Amandla.
Thank you very much, comrades. We will then close it there on that note. We, as revolutionaries, we are looking after interest even over positions that we hold or we held yesterday. Thank you very much.